Yo, what's good, YouTube? Sledgefist is finally dead after what I would say it took a little bit longer than we expected, but we finally got it done last night. We pumped. Shamans are absolutely like bonkers on this fight. They do really, really good. We're gonna go over a VOD review basically on Sludgefist, kind of the strat that we used. I'll go over like basic strats for pretty much any healer comp for the most part, and then I'll kind of go into more detail, like I said, on our strat. And then I'll kind of give you some more like tips, pointers, kind of how to play this fight out as a Resto Shaman, and some of the things that you can do to, one, be more effective HPS wise, two, weave in more DPS. That's very important as a healer on this fight, is to weave in more DPS, or as much as you can, because this is such a tight DPS check. As you'll see at the end of the fight, we barely kill this boss with literally like one person alive. We're behind on DPS. Like, that's one of the things that you gotta have to do as a healer, is just pitch in on DPS when you can, as long as people aren't dying. So let's get started. First come first, I want to say that you do need to effectively do the Wellspring bug, if you will, on this fight in order to like maximize the Wellspring talent. You see what I'm saying? You should just be doing it simply because that's like what you should be doing. If you're not doing that, you're pretty much effectively wasting HPS. So the way the Wellspring bug works is basically, I guess the way Blizzard has coded it, Wellspring like takes a snapshot in front of you, like in a cone, I guess, and whatever, before it sends it out, it snapshots it, and then once it sends it out, it doesn't recalculate. So once it sends it out, whatever the calculation is for like the 6 or 5 people that are injured, it does it split in that number, right? It like divides it amongst them evenly. But if everyone's at full HP, it calculates as no one injured. Therefore, whenever the Wellspring goes out and it hits everybody, whenever they do end up taking damage after the event, they then are all being healed with like the maximum HP that the Wellspring can get out. So what you basically do is, damage is about to hit in like 1.52 seconds. You already casting Wellspring. Wellspring needs to be out on the ground, and then damage hits, and then Wellspring goes under them and heals them up. You see what I'm saying? So like that's kind of how the Wellspring bug works. You want to basically time up as many damage events with Wellspring doing that as possible. If you miss the damage event, put out Wellspring as it is. You know, you just gotta do that, but because that's like good, it's still good AoE healing, right? It's still good healing, and you want to just get it out on cooldown as much as possible. But if you can wait like 1 or 2 seconds to line it up with a damage event, most definitely do that, right? So at the beginning here, we're just weaving in damage. There's not much going on, but as you can see, we're gonna sit here and do the Wellspring. We're a little bit late on that one, but you know, the point is there. Like I said, you want to make sure you're doing that. At the beginning here, there's not too much damage going out, so we're just putting in damage as a healer, right? So right here, what we have is we have a 2 disc priest comp. So a lot of people are running like 1 disc priest, 2 paladin, 2 shaman. We ended up having 2 disc priests because that's the healers that we have. So I opted to have our CDs be put on the roar before the charge from one of our disc priests, and then I had another disc priest actually ramp on the charge. So we're going to be safe going into the charge ideally, and then that spirit shell also covers the chain slam. So it covers the chain slam right before the last roar, and then it also has a spirit shell covering the charge. So we're kind of covering like 40 seconds of time, or I guess 25 seconds of time with spirit shells before going into the charge, just like the big damage event, right? The biggest thing is you don't want to get behind on this fight. If you start getting behind, you start going into damage events, and you're just never going to catch up. You end up just losing people because of like a roar, or, you know, they get chain slammed, they never get topped off, and they get roared on, they're dead, something like that. So that's kind of how we have it. Some people use Spirit Link on chain slams. We opted to not use it. We have 2 disc priests, so I opted to have our disc priests ramp into the chain slam, and then that way we can use our 2 shaman Spirit Links on damage events such as the charge. So right here we have a Spirit Link barrier coming down, and split our team up evenly as best we can, and we're just soaking. Fairly simple. We have a tide rolling on top of this. Not much damage going on when you have a disc priest spirit shelling into it. The first one's fairly easy. We get a Wellspring right there again, as you can see, and then we actually have 2 shamans, so I wanted to use our high tides on in between the phase. A lot of the problems that we were having as a guild was we were struggling in between the charges, and then once we were at the charge, we were a little bit behind in between. So instead of using the majority of our cooldowns on charges, I opted to have a lot of our cooldowns be used in between the charges. That way we're at a healthy point, and then we can just use our heals. As long as we have a good Spirit Shell ramp from one of our Disc Priests, we can just use our heals to get everybody topped up before that roar after the charge. So that's kind of the thinking. Right here, still weaving some DPS. The conduits that I'm using right now is Swirling Currents, and I'm using the one with 2 potencies right now. I think it's called like the Plague something. I forgot the name, but the one that you can have 2 potencies right now, Emily doesn't have her second potency yet, which she gets next week of this video. So I'm using Swirling Currents and Tumbling Waves. Tumbling Waves on this pool actually goes insane. I think I get like, I'm gonna make up a number, but like 12 to 14 procs. Like I go on like a 4 or 5 roll multiple times. It's insane. So right here, we're getting ready for a charge. Our Disc Priest actually dies. Our Disc Priest actually dies for the Spirit Shell going into this charge. So we're in a oh shit panic moment right here. We don't have big Spirit Shell shields for this charge, so we're probably gonna have to use one of our health pots, which we want to save for the end of the fight, but we might have to use it here. I call for defensives from everybody. And then we also have the Spirit Link and the barrier, so we're still fairly safe, but we don't have the big shields to kind of keep us healthy. And we're just getting everybody up as much as possible. Like I said, weave in some DPS if you can, especially during the time whenever he's, getting 100% increased damage right here when he's after the charge. And we actually make it out of that phase fairly safe for the most part. And we go into the next sequence between pillars, kind of caught up. Now, the thing is like, this fight is very simple. Once you figure out first phase, which is like the first sequence of like, spread, change slam, spread, roar, like whatever that sequence is, once you figure that out, that's the whole fight. After that, you just gotta execute. You just gotta execute each pillar. It's that simple of a fight. It's just a DPS check, it's an HPS check, and it's just execution with dealing with chains and not cleaving right here, not falling behind in any aspect, whether it's DPS, HPS, and that's pretty much how you kill this boss. Not too hard, not too difficult, I guess, but more like, it's just simple in terms of mechanics, but it's hard in terms of the aspect, like, you need to execute really well. So, I'm running Ancestral Vigor as my talent, and then we have our other shaman running Ankh Totem. We opt to use the Ankh Totem right here on the 3rd pillar, because we actually don't have any cooldowns besides a Devo. And... Sorry, I'm gonna go back. Yeah, we just have Devo, Spirit Shell, and Ankh Totem. So we don't really have too much on this pillar. Our goal is to come into this pillar, what I told all of our healers, is come into this pillar with the raid team topped up as much as possible. That way, when they take a hit, they're at maybe 50-60%. We can heal everybody up within the 10 seconds or so, or 8-10 seconds. And then before that roar comes out, we have enough breathing room to kind of catch up after that 3rd pillar. So we have the Ankh Totem for the protection. That's a 10% shout, basically. And then if someone dies, we have that as well. And then this is where stuff starts to get spicy, right? Between pillar 3 and 4, and then after pillar 4, everyone for the most part has like a ramping dot on them from soaking. So we're all ticking damage at the same time. We're having like spread. So when you really want to make sure people aren't cleaving, that's like the biggest thing. If people cleave, people are going to die here. If people get stunned, people are going to die here. It's just going to happen. We lust at 405, 410 is like the range of when we want to lust. And then right here, I call for Hellstones out of everybody going into this just to kind of catch us up. There's a lot of movement. Definitely want a Hellstone after that last spread or roar. And then we have a Spirit Link barrier as well. Same as the first pillar. So we actually miss a soak on our kill pool, right? Like, that's really bad. We actually miss a soak, and the healers do a really good job to catch us all up. So we get that done. And then we go into the spread. Now, like I said, it's a very repetitive fight, but it's just all about execution. As you see, these frames are like hovering 20-30% the whole time after every event. You're just getting people up just fast enough before they get hit again, and then you have to do it all over again, right? So you really need to have a solid heal team to get the job done, as well as having a solid DPS team overall to be able to like get the boss down fast enough before you just die to the last charge. So we had a tide before this to kind of top us up for that roar. That roar took us down really, really hard. I ended up using my tide right on that roar. It was insane value. Ended up bringing us to like 11k HPS because everyone was at 20%. Mastery kicked in. And then right here is the finale. We link barrier. We have spirit shells going into this. And it's just like kill the boss before you all die, right? All the frames are going down. I'm trying to like stay alive. We add a flame shock before the boss, before we die, and we end up pulling out the fight with, I think our mage had a seed, so we barely kill the boss fight with our mage still in seed. So that's kind of how the Sludgefist fight looks. Execution wise, I would say it wasn't that good from us, but we got the job done. We killed the boss. For the most part, I would say for this fight, it was actually really fun as a healer, especially Resto Shaman, because our kit is insane for this fight. Like I said, a lot of your healing comes from Wellspring, P-Wave cleaving. Riptide is just insane on this fight. This is what my log looks like. So if you look at this breakdown on this log, we have Riptide, our highest like heal for the most part, right? I'm actually playing Torrent because I just wanted to take out some of that brain power that was used for like the position that I'm in. I'm over here, I'm calling CDs. So some of the brain power that I would have to use to min-max Unleash Life, I actually just take that out, cut that out, and just play Torrent so I can shift some of my brain power into, you know, still making calls effectively and stuff like that. But Unleash Life is still really good. Almost actually better if you could play it at a high level. Unleash Life is better, but Torrent is the meta for a lot of people. Oh, I'm sorry, Torrent is like showing well in logs, so can definitely play Torrent and go and be fine with that. But like I said, Riptide, #1 heal. Hit that button on cooldown. You need to be hitting that on cooldown, getting that out as much as possible. It nearly did 1 million overall. And then Healing Wave is the next button that you're going to be hitting. You can run out of mana on this fight because there's so much healing. You're constantly hitting globals, right? So you want to make sure that you're Healing Waving as much as possible. You play Shaman as a spot healer anyways, so Healing Wave is just going to conserve mana. You're going to be Riptiding on cooldown anyways, so that way you're going to have tidal waves to be able to give you that 10% increase casting speed on the Healing Wave. That's really good. And then obviously this is kind of like your generic breakdown. Riptide, Healing Wave, Cloudburst, Windows, and then I have Wellspring and Healing Rain. That's kind of what your breakdown should be looking like. Chain Heal, I casted 3 times. I maybe could have casted a little more because I actually ended up we killed the fight. I had like 30% mana, so I could have casted it more. I don't think Chain Heal is worth really casting. I casted 3 times, did 57k. It's not really doing much. Doesn't really heal that much, and it costs a lot of mana, so it's not really worth wasting the 2.5 seconds or however long it takes to cast that button to not heal for anything. That's kind of how my breakdown looks right here. And yeah, for the most part, that's kind of how you play it as a Resto Shaman. Trinkets wise, I'm running Badge, and then I'm running an Unbound Changeling. So I actually don't have good trinkets at all, actually. I mean, the Badge is fine and the Changeling fine, but I would rather have like a Ruby and a Kabbalah's Hymnal or something like that, right? So like, that's kind of what you want going into this fight. Stats wise, which shouldn't matter for the most part, you should just play Intellect, play your highest eye level. But if you have the option to play stats, because you have like similar eye level pieces, I have, you know, a majority of its crit, and then I actually reduced a lot of my haste and played, you know, a fair bit of mastery and obviously verse. So like crit verse, and then I have a good bit of mastery as well. I have my legendary built as crit mastery because there's so much verse gear in the game already that, you know, I have my neck as verse, I have, you know, my shoulders as verse, like all, you know, PvP gear has a bunch of verse on it, the raid gear has a bunch of verse on it. I end up going mastery on my legendary, that way I can at least have some mastery for prog, because mastery is really good on prog. And yeah, Next week we get our second potency for Emini. I'll be switching back to Emini and running that. So yeah, this is decently long, but make sure to like, subscribe, comment, follow me on twitch.tv/Jdtre, and we stream pretty much every raid night for the most part. I sometimes stream during the day when we do like keys and stuff like that, but yeah, it's all peace.